The police force of St. Martin, KPSM, continues its firm and coordinated efforts to combat the series of jewelry robberies that have been impacting the community during the year 2025. As part of these ongoing investigative operations, another suspect has been taken into custody. On Saturday, February 28, 2026, a male suspect identified by the initials MYF was arrested at a residence on ATH Illage Road. The arrest was carried by officers of KPSM in connection with one of the jewelry robberies that took place at a hotel in the Oyster Pond area during the year 2025. The suspect has been brought to the police station in Phillipsburg, where he is being held for further questioning. The investigation into this case remains active, and additional arrests in connection with these jewelry robbery investigations are not excluded. KPSM remains fully committed to identifying and apprehending all individuals involved in these serious criminal acts. The police force urges anyone with information related to these robberies to come forward and assist the investigation. The Ministry of Justice confirms that reports circulating about immigration conducting operations or checks during the Dominican Republic Independence Day parade are false. No such planned operation was scheduled in connection with the parade. The ministry recognizes that such events are important cultural celebrations within our community. There was no targeted action linked to the parade, and immigration did not organize or execute any operation in relation to this event. The ministry can confirm that 2 Venezuelan nationals were detained yesterday. Their apprehension was the result of a routine patrol conducted independently of the parade activities. The timing was coincidental and not connected to the celebration in any way. One of the individuals detained had previously evaded immigration authorities in the past and has since been actively sought. The Ministry of Justice remains committed to carrying out its duties in a professional, impartial, and lawful manner. Routine enforcement activities continue daily across the country and are not targeted at any specific cultural or community event. The public is encouraged to rely on verified information and official communications from the ministry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to present the results of the 2025 EGRA-EGMA project. I would like to state for the record that this has been presented and provided to all school managers and where relevant school boards, as well as the student care teams at each school. Following this meeting, there will be further follow-up with the schools to address the recommendations and identify any overlaps with solutions already being worked on within the ministry. Exempt from this assessment, Mr. Chairman, were the private schools, Learning Unlimited and Caribbean International Academy, CIA. However, for 2027, I have asked Division Examinations to consider including them in the assessment project for the sake of comparing best practices in literacy and numeracy development across the entire education ecosystem of St. Martin. So without further ado, the project history. In 2023, this project was supported by the NRPB, the World Bank, and the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. It was led by the Division of Exams with the support of 2 international consultants. The first evaluation was done in March 2023 with Group 3. That is a COVID cohort that started during the COVID lockdown. The results were presented in Q3 of 2024. Pupils' report cards were distributed evenly with a remediation report. In 2025, the assessment was run again, this time including Group 5. So this Group 5 that was assessed in 2025 is the former Group 3 of the 2023 batch. This was done to see if there had been any improvements in the 2 years since they were previously assessed in Group 3. The Group 3 of 2025 that did not start, obviously in a lockdown, underwent the same tests as 2023 for comparability's sake. There were no lesson observations this time, there were shorter questionnaires, and 50% of the assessors were the same as the ones in 2023. Assessors were financed by the NRPB. Overall, though, the project was financed primarily by the Ministry of ECYS. There was also a new approach to the math testing using MCQ, as well as reading fluency and reading comprehension. So the early grade reading assessment group 3 results. I want to just remind the public and the members of parliament, the following slides are showing you a comparison between the 2023 cohort, which were children that began their educational careers during the COVID lockdown, and the 2025 cohort of the same age and group who did not begin their educational careers during any type of pandemic lockdown. We have here the mean scores by subtask. Mean scores by subtask, these are timed tasks. Students were timed on each of these subtasks. Some improvements can be noted between the Group 3 of 2023 and the Group 3 of 2025. However, it remains below optimal ranges. Correct letters per minute, so how many letters can be identified within the timed task. In 2023, we saw the average score at 53.6% versus 2025, 61.2%. Correct words per minute. 17.3% in 2023 versus 28.2% in 2025. This is how many words can be identified during the timed exercise. And perhaps most troublesome, Mr. Chairman, oral reading fluency in 2023 had an average score of 23%, and in 2025, the average had increased to 43.6%. The percentage correct by subtask, untimed tasks, I want to preface this by explaining what a phoneme is for the members of parliament and for the public. A phoneme is a unit of sound in a specified language that distinguishes one word from another. For example, with P, B, D, and T in the English words pad, pat, bad, and bat. Since this assessment also included the Dutch stream, I find it important to note this because you might wonder, well, letter recognition shouldn't be difficult or different in Dutch since it's the same alphabet. However, the differentiation comes when we throw phonemes into the mix because, for example, the letter E in Dutch corresponds to the English sound of the letter A, and the letter I in Dutch sounds like the letter E in English. Finally, Dutch has a more complex vowel system than English, with more vowels and a more consistent phonetic spelling system. So for English in 2023, 22% of the cohort got their phonemes correct, and in 2025, 78%. So a marked improvement.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
The Department of Youth has spearheaded another youth-led research initiative aimed at strengthening youth participation and advancing St. Martin's commitment to becoming a more child-friendly and youth-responsive community. As part of the initiative, 10 young people between the ages of 16 and 19 from several secondary schools on the Dutch side of the island were selected and trained in data collection and research methods. The training sessions facilitated in February, equipped the participants with foundational skills in developing clear research questions, recognizing bias, and collecting representative information in a respectful and responsible manner. Following the workshop phase, the youth researchers are now actively gathering responses from their peers at elementary and secondary schools across the island. The team is utilizing the Child-Friendly City Checklist, a UNICEF-based measurement tool that was adapted by the young participants to reflect the St. Martin context. The initiative places young people at the center of exploring how youth experience participation within their communities, specifically whether they feel heard and how they are engaged in decisions that affect their lives. The data collected will support evidence-based discussions and help inform future policies, programs, and actions focused on youth development and participation. The Department of Youth expresses sincere appreciation to the participating schools, students, and partners for their continued cooperation and support. Further updates will be shared as the project progresses into the analysis and the reporting phase. Willemstad. During a military ceremony on Monday morning, March 2, 2026, Company Rotation 50 handed over its tasks to the next unit, Rotation 51. The new commander, Captain Marnix, took over command from his predecessor during a traditional paddle handover. After 4 intensive months in the Caribbean, Captain Roderick looks back with satisfaction on the collaboration and training of Charlie Tiger Company. The unit conducted training sessions across the islands, including a medical element. It was a unique opportunity for the unit to train in this tropical climate. Curaçao, Bonaire, and Aruba allowed the platoons to conduct tactical training and develop specialized skills. The firing range on Curaçao offers the opportunity to conduct integrated live fire exercises with mortars and snipers, supported by unmanned systems and drones. We were also able to collaborate with Curaçaoan military personnel and the Coast Guard. It was remarkable to see how, despite differences in background and working methods, we could jointly contribute to safety and stability.
Recently, I traveled across the Caribbean. My Caribbean, your Caribbean. My intention was to visit as many heads of government, as many leaders that time would permit. But as I traveled from state to state, country to country, and in many cases, island to island, there was one undeniable fact that this Caribbean of ours is the most beautiful place on earth. And I know we have our international guests here, but I'm sure they would excuse me. But as I met each leader, it stirred something in me. It stirred a sense of pride, a sense of dignity, that though we varied sometimes in our own outlook, our politics, our geopolitical position, irrespective of all of that, there is indeed a fact that remains, that these leaders in the Caribbean, who are a reflection of our people, are surely people to be proud of. And so the Caribbean at this time and CARICOM might be going through challenges and difficulties. But I want to say one thing before I get further into it. That at a time when it seems toughest, when the seas seem rough, when those who are the critics are doing their best at criticizing and suggesting that CARICOM has lost its way, today, in St. Kitts and Nevis, in this great hall, in our presence are all the leaders of the full members of CARICOM. And almost all the leaders of the associated states. And the last time, when we had all the leaders in the same space for a meeting, was over 10 years ago. So in adversity, there's opportunity. Put your hands together for all our Caribbean leaders who are here with us this evening. Your Excellency, Dame Marcella Liebert, Governor General of this beautiful twin island state of St. Kitts and Nevis, to all of my fellow heads of government who are here, who have already been introduced, I salute you. To our dear SG Barnett, whose tireless work is certainly keeping us together and afloat. She has been working hard, and put your hands together for her as well. You know, sometimes I feel bad when she has to get up 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, responding to international emergencies. And she does it without flinching. Thank you, SG, for your leadership.
Are you Asset V insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? Asset V is cardless. Request your My Asset V account today and enter the virtual office of Asset V. Go to assetv.sx and sign up now.
Asset V, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
Edward Eddy, Emmanuel Violenis, began playing music at age 16 and continued well into his 80s, up until shortly before his passing in February 2026. His accordion became the soul of the legendary Tanny and the Boys sound. Born in Aruba in 1939 to St. Martin parents, Eddy returned to St. Martin, where he was an original member of Sexteto Flores, a string band that performed at house parties, hotels, and formal functions in the early 1960s. Sexteto Flores started out with musicians like Carl Tallboy Arndell, Jocelyn Arndell, Thomas Pemberton, Alberto Richardson, Arthur Matthew, and Raymond Violenis. An instrument maker, Eddy made the classic tambora, marimba, and guiro for Tanny and the Boys over the years. Beginnings. When between 1962 and 1965, the Sexteto Flores fused with the horn, or blowing instruments of music, pioneer John C. Lamani's Philipsburg Community Brass Band to form Philipsburg Conjunto. Conjunto, also known as Lamani and his Boys, appeared to have been formed expressly in response to the 1960s audience demand for a bigger and better amplified party sound at the popular public dances held at St. John's Ranch, Vava Flanders Theatre in Grand Case, and like venues throughout St. Martin. Late 1970s endured, not only in its traditional form, but also in a resurgence of popularity in St. Martin and in performances abroad from the late 1980s through the first decade of the new century. Eddy's accordion playing, along with instruments he crafted, including the banjo of band leader Nathaniel Tanny Davis and the marimba, are preserved on Fate, the first recording of traditional St. Martin's festive music, 1992 LP cassette. The landmark recording was arranged by Umain Yume Dormoy and produced by House of Nehesi Publishers, HNP. As with Fate, Eddy's accordion playing is also elemental, along with the instruments and voices of his fellow iconic band members, on classic Tanny and the Boys, string band music from St. Martin, 2000, the group's first CD release, produced by Mongoose Production. Renee Violenis recalled last week in a Facebook comment how, as a young boy, he watched his great-uncle's genius and love for his craft manifest in so many different forms. Goat would get butchered. Next thing you know, skin hanging out to cure for the making of a drum, tambora for George. An old milk tin split with a cold chisel, flattened, holes punched on it with a nail and hammer, 'cause he making a guero for Jocelyn. I remember him cutting the metal tins and setting them on a marimba, vaguely. I remember so many of the older heads coming and going in the yard in Succora's Garden, Eddy's home district. Port St. Martin Group, PSG, advise motorists that in connection with the 46th edition of the St. Martin Heineken Regatta, scheduled for March 5 to 8, an adjusted Simpson Bay Bridge opening schedule will be in effect, in addition to the regular daily openings. The temporary schedule is intended to facilitate the safe and efficient movement of regatta participants and marine traffic during the event period. From Thursday, March 5th through Sunday, March 8th, the following morning, bridge openings will apply. 9:30 a.m. Outbound extra opening regatta participants. During the afternoon hours, the schedule will be as follows. 15:00 p.m. Inbound extra opening regatta participants. During the afternoon hours, the schedule will be as follows. 15:00 p.m. Inbound extra opening regatta participants. Motorists are strongly urged to pay close attention to the bridge stoplights and booms and to fully respect all signals once activated, as these indicate that the bridge will be opening. Compliance is essential in the interest of public safety and the smooth flow of vehicular and marine traffic. The Simpson Bay Lagoon Authority Corporation, SLAC, further advises tour operators to take the additional bridge openings into account when planning tour routes during the regatta period to avoid unnecessary delays. The regular scheduled daily Simpson Bay Bridge openings remain in effect. 8:30 a.m. outbound, 9:30 a.m. inbound, 10:30 a.m. outbound, 11:30 a.m. inbound, 14 GAO inbound. The Board of the Slavery Memorial Committee Foundation announces that Mr. Paulo Martina will take over as the organization's new director, effective May 1st, 2026. Astrid Elberg, Chair of the Board of the Slavery Memorial Committee. With Paulo Martina, we have someone on board who, like the rest of our team, is an expert and highly competent. He is also solution-oriented and shares our vision of contemporary reality and the future. Paulo Martina was born in Curaçao in 1964 and moved to the Netherlands at the age of 12. He has worked in the arts and culture sector for 30 years and has been the director of the Zutphen Museums since 2023. He also presents the television program Nu te Zien. Martina previously served as director of the Van Bommel Van Dam Museum in Venlo for over 4 years and as director of Museum Dar 888 in Drachten for 10 years. He also has extensive experience in advisory and management roles within the cultural sector, including as an advisor to the Boekman Stichting and as a member of the Groningen Arts Council Advisory Committee. Paulo Martina. Because of my own background, I feel an intrinsic connection to the history of slavery. This makes me extra motivated to use my knowledge and experience for the Slavery Memorial Committee. Because of my roots, I am deeply connected to the people and the issue. Martina's credo is that everyone has the right to know their own history. A history with which you can identify, which helps you better understand yourself, others, and your surroundings. Awareness is key. This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.